Okay, so in this lab, so I try to write labs. So these labs I write, right? Um, that would relate to what you're learning today, right? In the lecture. So that way you can see how it's applied. And in the lab, sometime I would add additional information that might not exist in your notes or your assignments, so that way you can learn a little bit more about what you're doing. So I recommend that as you go through the course, every technical course, as if you learn something and you feel comfortable doing it, try to add that to your resume or create a list, okay? Because you are gonna forget by the time that after final exam and you go on vacation and then you don't remember, did I do this, right? Um, Technical resume is about product vendor. So you can specify like the software tools that you use, the systems that you use, the version number. So make a list, right? Like you can say, pen testing, and you can start listing some of the skills and the relevant product. So, categorize it. That's what I'm saying. So if you're in the apprenticeship program, they'll train you. Okay, so today we're going to do footprinting, passive and active. Some of you are familiar with these tools already because you've used it in other classes. Some of you might not, so we'll start from scratch. So in footprinting, here are the basic steps. First, you need to find your target, right? We talked about that. So we need to look at the network to see the ports are available. We need to gather information about the targets. Here's some of the tools. And then once you find the information that you need, you are going to analyze the results to see if it's relevant. If there are vulnerabilities that's involved, you're going to compare the results. And then you are going to plan for the next step, which is attack. So this is about preparing and laying the ground. Okay? So here are the procedure. In this class, we're going to be very comfortable with virtual machine, such as Kali Linux. We're going to use it on a weekly basis, mostly, and your Windows virtual machine, which is when we're going to start. So I'm going to teach you how to host, right, using a Windows virtual machine or Windows system. You're going to run IIS service to do like a web host. So basically that system is going to become your web server and you're going to attack it. Okay. We're not going to break any rules. We're just going to make our own. So this is how you're going to build your home lab. If you follow the procedure, you're going to be like, oh, I can do this at home. Okay. All right. So if you click the website here, or you can simply search Kali Linux download, you're going to land on the virtual machine page. So let me get back here. So on the Kali websites, you're going to see different type of virtual machine, right? Pick your poison. I choose VirtualBox only because it's very popular and it's easy to use. So you can download the hypervisor, which is the app from Oracle website. You can just say VirtualBox download. I mentioned that you need the tools package with the installation of your app. But today, right here, is what we're going to download an actual virtual machine. So what are the virtual machines? They are simulated or emulated systems through a software. So it's like using another system, but we use a software to simulate it, right? So if you use VMware, then you're going to use this. You're going to download this one, Hyper-V or QEMU. So we're going to use VirtualBox. You're going to go ahead and click the arrow button right here. Now it's going to come down as a compressed folder or a 7-zip folder. And it's about 3.5 gigs, okay? Now, once you click this, it's going to take a few minutes or a minute, and it's going to put it in your downloads folder, okay? So I had downloaded last night for my other class, so I'm not going to re-download. And I'll show you. Now, in the downloads folder, you're going to see a folder that has a zip symbol on it. I'm going to tell you and remind you over again, never, ever play your virtual machine from the compressed folder. It's going to fail, okay? You're going to get an error that says it cannot load. So let's think about it. If something is compressed, the file header is modified. Your system will not understand what kind of file that it used. Okay? So when you decompress, it's going to put the file header back. The file header is like how your system identify the file and do inventory on what files it has. Okay? Which app it's using. So if your file header is changed or modified, then you cannot use it. Does that make sense? So once you download, so what step am I doing here? When you look at the lab, it tells you you can access the link, download the virtual machine. Then what you're going to do is go to your downloads folder. You're going to right click the file that you download, which was what I'm doing here. You're going to right click. Now you're going to go to show more option and you're going to do extract all. You can choose other option on here, but you have to use 7-zip. Why? Because the people who created the virtual machine, they made it into, they use 7-zip to compress. Okay? Windows has its own little tedious thing. If you try to extract it using Windows compression tool or decompression tool, it will not work. Okay? You must use 7-zip. They already install it for you. So if you do this at home, you have to install 7-zip for this step. So right click, show more options, select 7-zip from the list, extract file. It's going to take 2 minutes or less to extract, and you're going to see a second folder without the zip symbol, the decompress folder. This is where you're going to play your virtual machine from. So if you're getting an error, go back and look at the step. Which file did I open? Which folder? And the files in it. Is it the zip folder or the non-zip folder? Okay? All right. So which step am I at? Right? I put extract all here, but what you need to do is you need to go show more option, select 7-zip, and then extract files. Okay? All right. So once we do that, we have a decompress folder, and it's still in our downloads folder. Okay? Now, once in a while, you're going to have to re-download Kali because Kali change, right? Update their system. So this is 25.4. Later this year, you're going to see the 0.5 come out. So they add new tools to it and they change. Okay? So now on the next step, once you decompress the folder, you are going to open up the decompress folder, the one without the zip symbol. Okay? So go here. You see the second one that I selected here? Not the first one that I downloaded, the decompressed one. You're going to double click it. Then you're going to open up the subfolder. Okay, let me do something real quick. I got to change my... So your system is a state system. It saves the state of whatever that's changed. Okay, since I changed it last night, I got to delete the logs and I got to delete the state. So it keeps... So all you want is the two files, the blue and the orange. Okay, the orange is like your drive and the blue is the actual VM. Okay, so once you open up the subfolder, you're going to double click the blue file, the one that says VBox. Okay, double click it. Now, if you see the extra state in the logs like me, and if you want to revert it back to the original, just delete the logs folder and the state file. Simple. And that's the same with VMware and other hypervisor. Okay, so it's going to take like less than a minute to boot. It's going to load the desktop and you're going to log in. Okay, so if it gives you an error here, go back and see which folder you access. Call me over. I'll help you to remove the machine. So as you double click the blue file, it puts your virtual machine into the playlist, right? And so if the error occurs, it's going to show on the playlist that it says failure, right? Error. So you have to remove it from the playlist and then repeat the steps. Okay, so which step am I at? I already double-clicked my blue file, right? That adds it to the playlist. And then I click start. So when you click start, it's going to boot the virtual machine. And now I have a Linux virtual machine running on my host Windows system. So you can run this on Mac OS, Windows, another Linux, right? As long as you download and you have the software to play, extract and play it. You need any help? Oh, you guys are pretty good then. Okay. We're going to log in. By default, Kali posts this information on their website. Okay. You're going to use the username, Kali, and you're going to input the same for the password. Okay. Now, by default, your mouse and keyboard auto capture. That means that you click outside, it works with the host. You click inside, it works with the virtual machine. Sometimes some system, if it has driver issue, then it might not do the same. So in that case, I recommend that you shut the virtual machine down, you restart your computer, you reopen the virtual machine from scratch, because when it loses the capture, what's going to happen is doesn't respond, so you can't move back and forth. So by default, it should have that. Okay. Now, also, Kali Virtual Machine allows you to copy paste. So if the command is really long and you don't want to mess up, you copy from the lab instruction and you paste it in. I'll show you how you can do that. Okay? All right. Anybody need help or have questions with loading? Okay. So first, part A, we are going to do a passive footprinting. And you can do this on the outside computer, which is the host computer, or inside your virtual machine. Okay? I just want you to boot your virtual machine for the later steps. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the outside. So you are going to open up your Chrome or your search engine. I'm going to go ahead and use Google. Now, did you know that there's specific search engine for certain things, right? In the dark web, it also has its own version of search engine. There's also search engine for IoT devices. We'll do that later. So there are specific search engine to gather information, but your general public search engine that you typically see is like Google. You can use Bing, right? You can use Firefox, browser, and then be able to use its search engine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to Google Dork a little bit. We are going to search for Nmap scan, right? So here, let's say that this is your target. Okay? Like a person's name, a company's name, potentially a public IP address, but I'm just doing this as an example so you can see. So I can copy and paste this. So this is when we're going to use an operator in the search engine, right? So paste it in here and then press enter. So as you can see, we are using in title, right? And then we're going to follow it up with the keywords that is going to point to what we're trying to find. Okay. So what you can do is you can add something like that, and then you can drill it a little bit more and a little bit more. So at this point, you can take a screen capture. So how do I do that? Right? I go back to here. These are the results I have. Sometimes you're going to get a lot, right? You're going to have to go through and read it. So I can use snip, or you can also do print screen. But I like to use snip. So open up snip app, and then you click new, and you just drag from left to right or right to left, whichever direction you like. So what it does is whatever you drag, so again, right? I open Snip app. I click new, and then I drag the area, hold down your mouse button and drag left to right to where you want it to capture. It's going to show up as an image here. It automatically copy on Windows. So I go back to my lab, make a new line, and then you can do Control V or right click and paste. So now you can adjust your image to whatever you want. Okay? So after you snip, it copied it to your buffer, your RAM, and then you can just Control V to paste it. That's how you screenshot. Okay. And then we're going to answer the question, what kind of search results are displayed and what's the title contained? So when you're using in title, we're looking for pages that mentions Nmap in some form of title. So when you make the web page content in HTML, you can have different heading, right? And part of the component on that page is title. So if I put title like products, right? Then or shoes, then it's gonna show up on there. So when you use in title, whatever follow the colon is gonna be your keywords that you're gonna search for. And could be the target related keywords. Okay. So here, what you can see is there are other websites, not Nmap itself, that mention something about Nmap in some form of title, right? Like Zero Trust use case. So there's somebody that posts that. So in your own words, you can summarize, right? There are other technical websites that have included Nmap in, like network traffic on their site. And then if you go down to the Nmap website itself, you can see they posted a tutorial, right? And it has some kind of scan and Nmap information. Okay. So I don't expect you to count all your results, right? You can just sum it up for me. Approximately, 100. 5 pages or on results on Google, right? So the point is that the more hits that you have here, that's too generalized. We need to drill it down a little bit more, right? So am I going to have time to go through this? Sometime you're going to have to, right? To see all the mentioning about the web presence for this particular search that we're looking for. Okay. So answer those questions. Do you see any kind of files? Right? So scroll through to see. Sometimes you might have like links that will give you like, PDF or some kind of download. Okay, if you don't see any, then tell me no, right? So Google is going to give you a bunch of videos related to that. You can expand and see if you're looking for that. You go back. So if I'm looking for files, then perhaps I need to put in the criteria. Like if I'm looking for PDF, JPEG, .ini in the case if we're looking for system files. If you don't see any, you can say, none found. So it tells you to click on the first result link and describe the content. My purpose in this is as you find your result, you're going to have to look at the quality of the data that it's giving you, right? So Akamai Technologies, you click on it, reject the cookies. And so it talks about this here, Zero Trust model. So Nmap is an open source tool, but as you can see, a lot of proprietary company actually use it to assess, right? And this is a topic that is very heightened and popular in cybersecurity right now is Zero Trust, right? Also, there's a company and product name after that. So basically, this is just sharing information about their use case. Okay. And then they want to market their product. So this might not be important, right, related to Nmap. So I might not be able to use this. So I would go to the next result and so on. Okay, next we are going to search again, same criteria, but in this case, we're going to use all in text. So instead of using it in the title, maybe we can search for content of pages that has Nmap scan mentioned. Virtual box. No, I'm talking about that app. Yeah, so you have to download VirtualBox. Go VirtualBox download. No, you have the virtual machine. So think of a virtual machine as a file that contains a machine, but you need an app to read it. Yeah. So go to you can go VirtualBox one word download. Then it will take you to Oracle website. Okay, so select the version from Windows, something like that. And then once that's done, you install that, but on the right side. That there's a full package. Yeah, accept your app. So click accept and download. So you need to install the first download, which is the actual app, and then the extension pack. Basically, it's just additional code to allow you to manage your machine. Oh, yes. Yeah. So once you install that, then you'll see the blue file. Because right now your Windows OS, like I don't know what this file means, but I don't have an app to read it. Thank you. Yep. Okay, other questions? All right, so we talked about all in text. So if you change, so come back here, right? You can say all in text in one word here. They should have taught you guys this in like CIS-1A, but sometimes they don't. So we kind of get the similar, right? You're going to see the top results. And sometimes this is also like based on like advertisement that they pay Google, right? To get the search top criteria search. But you do see similar. So it's just, I'm showing you like different ways that you can find the information that you need by using some operator in search engine. Okay. So here, is it different than what you see in the last step? Right? You're going to get similar or the same results. Does the title contain Nmap scan? So you want the text to really embed it into the title. Is it accurate? Basically, did this question really address like is it accurate for what we were looking for? So if it doesn't, you can say it doesn't, right? But on the Nmap website itself, it should. And then again, the same thing, approximate account for it is okay. Click on the first link. So I still get the Akamai Technologies as the same result. Now, if you try a different search engine, so sponsored results, you're going to see at the top, but I want to go down here and click Nmap because that's not sponsored, right? Sponsor means that they pay Google to serve that first. So when you click on Nmap, it's going to take you to this page. Well, soon to load. Everybody's probably clicking on it or something's happening. Okay. There you go. Right? So what you see is like, you know, it has some information. So it does have that on the actual title, right? And then they show you how you can do a scan with Nmap, and then there's links related to the product. All right. Then next, what we're going to do is we are going to use the domain name and we are going to use the site operator. So as you see, go along, you're going to see that we're going to plug in different operator with the colon and then the information on the target. So we're going to do a site nmap.org. So come back here, type site. And you don't have to put the www dot, right? So we want to see like all affiliated results that relates to that domain, right? nmap.org. And it can be a name, right? Company's name, etc. It doesn't have to be a domain. So if you're looking for the organization, then you can put in its domain name to start, right? Or something that is really their true focus. And then look at the results. Do you give me approximate do you see images and video or media content? The reason why we're doing this is we might be able to use that, right, for more information. So if your target is like the CEO of the company, then they might they might post a video or images that you can use in this process, right? Most attack you typically see whether a lot of the time, let's say that they're doing it for money. They rarely target an individual. Usually it's like the overall organization because that's where the big bucks is. Unless that individual hold keys to a lot of things, then they would start targeting that person. Okay? So what we're gonna do is we can describe what we see. And it changes over time too. So if you do something last month, right? Because the internet, the content of the websites change. They update it, they modify it, so you might not get the same result. So when I did this last year, when you watch the video, it's a little different, right? So you can't rely on historical stuff. In this industry, I think historical results sometimes is dated. It might, be gone by the time that you come back months later. So you have to redo you have to go through the process again. Okay. Then in the next steps, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the browser. We are going to search for Nmap source and we are going to add in Rapid7. So Rapid7 is an organization. They are affiliated with Nmap. And we want to see. So if you are investigating like companies that have sister company, partners, things like that, right? This is probably a good tie. So, as you can see, all of this is going to be now focused on Rapid7, and they might have something to say about Nmap. So there you go, right? There's GitHub repository that they put up, and Nmap was part of their toolkit. So even security company that have their own proprietary product, that they're going to use open source product that is good, right? So you can see that there. I know we're coming to the 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to go through. And then we're going to do URL. So we want to say if there's something in the URL. So why is this important? Sometimes you want to see if that was embedded into the URL, the name. URL injection is not that popular anymore, but it still is. And we'll talk about that later. But you just want to see because sometimes that can be included with sister company or domains, etc. So we don't want to leave anything out. Okay. So as you drill through, you're gonna start seeing like a little bit closer to what you were looking for, maybe. And then answer the question. Is it the same or different? So you just need to make an observation, right? And then click on the first link, not the sponsor link, but the later links, the actual link. So that's how you do indirect information gathering through a search engine, or what we call passive. That's only one technique. And then you can use social media, which we will probably be able to do later. Since we talk about Nmap in the first part, we are going to then use it in the second part. Okay. I know some of you have used this before, but if you haven't, it's okay. This is often used in footprinting. It is an active tool, meaning that when you target, when you use it, scan the target's going to see you, okay? Because it's going to respond to you. Basically, it's going to run a bunch of scripts to query information. So if I'm targeting a server, then it's going to start querying, like, who are you? What do you have? What kind of version? What kind of port do you have open? And the server has to respond. Can you floor someone with Nmap? Yeah. If you have a lot of system asking questions, right, the server is going to get busy. But it is a very active tool. So I give you some brief information about here. It's going to discover the network, like how far are you from the target host. It's going to list the open port and the closed port, the open ports and how many closed ports. But it depends on what you use Nmap, the switch or the option that you add to it in the command. The OS, so we're going to fingerprint the operating system with it. Okay. Now we're going to go back to Kali. Log back in, Kali. And your best friend in this class is going to be your command line. Open up the command line, and that's the black square box at the top. Linux UI or GUI is going to be top down, left to right, right? Windows, bottom up, left to right. But they are true to design, so that's what you see here. You can always change how it looks, but it's on dark mode. Sorry, it's a little hard to see at the top because of the light. See you later.
Yeah.
Okay, always start your system with an update. The reason why is it's frequently changed. So before you install anything or use anything, run an update so the software can get the latest version. You can copy by highlight and choose copy. And then go to your Kali, click on the terminal and right click, choose paste selection. And of course, you can always type, right? In the case you don't want to type a long command, highlight what you need to copy from the document, go to the terminal, right click, paste selection. Okay, not the clipboard, paste selection. Because the clipboard between the host and the virtual machine, sometimes it doesn't read it. It reads it with the format, and sometimes it doesn't work right. So sudo apt-get update is, and then you're gonna put in your password. So in Linux, just type. Don't pay attention to the cursor. It won't move to the character that you type. Type correctly. If it doesn't, it tells you to type again. So type Kali and press enter. If it works, then it goes to the next step. So this is going to take about less than a minute or maybe a minute or so if you use a recent version. If you use an older version, then it's going to take a while, right? So that's why we download the recent version so we don't have to push so many updates. They already updated when they create the virtual machine, We just need to add the new update since then. So once you have your software updated, and that's different than upgrade, because upgrade the OS version. That will be a while. Sometimes we need to do that. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna find our own system IP address. We are gonna use our system as a target, right? We're gonna scan against ourselves, right? So the way that you find IP address in Linux now for most version is a IP space address. Okay, if you're not familiar with this, what am I going to look at, right? There's a bunch of numbers. Okay, the top number, the 127, that's called a loopback address. All system call home, so it's always going to come back to itself to see itself inside the network. So whenever that you use host or host name, it really refers to itself, right? So the way that it sees itself is through that loopback address. The second entry that you see in purple, right, the 10.0.2.15, that's an actual IP address for the Ethernet connection. Now, it's always going to be Ethernet connection by default when you use virtual machine because the way that they create the software, it's always going to use Ethernet as a connection, even on your laptop. Okay? So, and then this is a broadcast address. So above it, you're going to see IPv6. Below it's the INET6 is the IPv6 for it. We're going to care about IPv4. So what's the IP address? It's going to be that 10. So I'm going to type it here so you can see 10.0.2.15, I believe. So at this point, if you can find a public IP address, keep a record of it, right? If it's version 4, version 6, so because you're going to use it over and over again. Okay. Then we are going to do a damn vulnerable web app setup. This allows you to run a web app on your own system without extra system. So you're going to copy that command, go back to command line, and you are going to paste. So this is what they create. It's a software tool that they create to run a web app without any security. That's what you're going to be opening. So when you put in that command and it stops here, it's going to say, are you sure you want to install? You're going to press Y and press enter to continue. If we don't finish, we're going to stop at a certain point, but you can, and I'll take it like that, right? But you can continue to practice outside. Okay, so that's all you need to run a web app on your Linux machine. Just like that. Install, and then we're going to start, okay? Later on, we're going to start using like web packages where we would need a lot. So this is a little bit longer because it's need to pull all the code, right? You notice that it's running Apache. So Apache is a web service on Linux, Apache 2, right? So it comes down with that. It also puts PHP 8, so that way it can load the PHP pages with the web apps. So it's then installed. And it talks about DVWA, and this is available for practice purposes. So once you have that installed, I'm going to run the start command. So the way that you do that is you simply use the software command, DVWA-start, no space. Okay? So installing doesn't mean that it will work. You just put it there, but you have to activate it. You have to turn it on, start it. And when you run the start command, it's going to tell you to type in your password again, Kali for Cali. So wait a few seconds for it to go and it load your web app. See? We don't need to log in or anything. We just need it to run. So don't close it. Just keep it running. Okay? The reason why I do that is so that when you scan, you're going to see something. Because it's really boring if we scan and there's nothing running, right? So you can see. We're going to also so at this point, so once you have it going, take a screenshot. So here, right, open your snip, click new, drag it, and then paste it to your document. And then occasionally save your file if you put it on the cloud so you don't lose your work. Okay. Once you have this, right, you can have as many terminal as you need to, okay? It's not limited to one terminal, one window. So sometime you might be running command on one and turn on the service. You can't close that because you need to run another service. A way that we can do that is to do a shortcut. Control-Alt-T opens another terminal, or you can just click the terminal button and it's going to open another one for you. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make sure that we start Apache. It's already starting because the web app loads. But we want to start a web server. So whenever you run a Linux or the Linux system, the Linux server, you want to use Apache or Apache 2, right? So the way that we call this, because it's already installed with the package that we had or with the Linux version, you just simply use sudo is super user do service, right? In Linux, that's just calling the service. And then whatever the tool that you use here, so the service that we're going to use is Apache, and then follow that with the start. If you don't know, you can Google it. You can go read their documentation. So once I have my web app running, I just want to make sure that my web service is also running. So all of this is to prep our system. It's kind of like a web server, right? That's working, and then you're going to scan it. So here you can click on the terminal to open another one. And then you are going to paste the command or type it. Let me change the view so it's bigger. So I'm going to run Apache 2. Again, it's going to ask me for the password. Type it, K-A-L-I. And you won't see anything that's output because it turns it on in the background. Understand? There's nothing to tell you that it's working, right? Okay, so we started it. I want to get to at least like maybe 27 or 30, and we can stop there. Okay, but you can run the rest if you have time or practice. So if you get to 30 and you know, and then make sure that you answer the last question for me. Okay? But I give you some practice. What we can do is we can come back to this and finish it up next week if you like, and we can extend the lab due date. Sorry, I ran a little bit behind time today, so. Okay, so let's do that. Let's finish it up next week so we're not stressed or rush. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the next few steps because now it's 4:18, right? 4:30 is the end of class. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll try to go as far as I can. And then when we come back next week, we will finish up this lab, right? And then I'll modify lab 2 to where it fits the time. But I want you to see some results from doing this now. Okay. So once we start the web service, we already have our web server running. What you can do is you can, use Nmap help if you don't know what to do with it, right? And it gives you example on how to use it. right? If you want to run aggressive scan, that's a capital A. So that means it's very noisy. They will see you definitely. You can't be stealth. So aggressive means that it just run more scripts. So it's gonna launch the script against the target, which is the domain name or an IP address. So you can use this right here, right? You can pass it with your domain or an IP. So they give you some example. You can scroll up and read it. So what option can be used to enable OS detection? So go through. If I want to scan and find OS information, you have to read through it. You're gonna use a -O, a capital O, like for Opal, October. Okay. It tells you that here. So if you want to detect the server OS, you can do a -O, no space, right? You can do Nmap space -O, no space between the hyphen and the O. And then if you want the version number for the operating system, what do you use? So go through and read it, right? You're going to have to scroll up and down to see it. My point in this is it's going to help you learn the command for the tool because you might not be familiar with certain tool command and you might not read all the documentation. So the help option allows you to see. They added a lot more options. See, for IPv6. Okay, the version number is the capital V, right? With the, like Victor. So you can use that to find the version number for your software. Then next we are going to plug in our IP here. So let's do an aggressive scan real quick. Nmap -A, right? And the placeholder, we need to place our own IP address here, the 10.0.2.15 that we wrote down earlier, or the target IP. So space 10.0.2.15. This is IPv4. If you're using IPv6, you got to make sure that you use the right option for v6. Because the way that they wrote the software, it's a function. So when it calls that function, this is the parameter. Okay. It's in Python. Now, when you start this, aggressive scan launch a lot of scripts. So depending on how far your target and how responsive it is, because we are scanning ourselves, it's fast. So keep in mind that if you do this on a server that's far away, that's remote, that has a lot of security protection, it might not respond or it's going to take a long time. Okay? So it's going to tell you, here's the report, right? Here are the ports. So port 80 is open. Why is it open? Well, we did the web app. We turned that on, right? That's port 80. Okay? We ran Apache. You see that there. Okay? That's why we turn on that service so you can see. It tells me that this is a Debian, definitely, because it's Kali. And then it's running Linux 5.x or 6.x. This is the kernel information. So here I have the OS fingerprint. I can use this to find out, oh, is it vulnerable? Right? There's 0 hop because we are scanning ourselves. So each hop is like a router in between. Okay? So if you have to go through like 5 routers, it's gonna list the as hops. And then there's only one host, one IP, because we are ourselves, right? So that's how you can practice. Okay, one more and then we'll pause. Okay. All right, so take a screenshot, answer the question. Now what we're going to do is we are going to increase verbosity. So when we say verbosity, that means that it shows text. So if you want less text or more text summarized, So the report that you saw is kind of like a summarized version, right? If you want verbosity, it's going to tell you what's happening, right? More details. And you would use a lowercase v with your scan. So if you add this option in front of the capital A, it makes a difference in how you see the report. Okay, so we are gonna, you don't have to copy. So a trick, if you don't know Linux, up arrow key repeats the last command, and then you can just move with the left arrow key to in front of the capital A, and you just put in the lowercase v space dash A, go to the end and press enter, right? Now you're gonna see that it's gonna tell you more detail, like what it's doing, how many tries. So it's a little bit more information. Okay. And then when you run this tool, it's gonna launch this many packets. So basically those packets is sent to the target to get some kind of response. And packets really represents like, the traffic for that through the network. Okay. Any question? Okay, so we are going to look at how many scripts were loaded for the scan, for the aggressive scan, how many ports were scanned, how many ports are closed, and how many IP addresses were scanned. So when you give it verbosity, you get a little bit more details in your report. So as an analyst or a pen tester, you're going to have to document this information, right? Okay. Right here. And then your port information, because it's the same system, so you're going to get the same information the second time around. It's just added a little bit more text to show more, right? Okay. I'm going to run one more. Sorry. I'm going to do the SS so that way you can see, and then you can go. We'll end the session. We'll come back and then we'll pick up the next step in the next time. In the lab portion, I'll make sure I'll dedicate some time for it, and we'll push it back a little bit if we need to. So we are going to do the SS. This is when you're working, your network knowledge comes in handy. So SYN stands for synchronization, right? In an HTTP process, in a web request process, when you visit a website with your browser, first it's going to say, who is this server that hosts this domain, right? It's going to convert that domain into an IP address. So once the information is exchanged, it says, oh, I'm the server. Let me serve you the content for the web. Then your system is going to do a SYN and a SYN-ACK. SYN stands for synchronization and SYN-ACK stands for acknowledgement for synchronization. You won't be able to see the web content if there's no SYN or SYN-ACK. Synchronize gives you the data, whether it's code or information that you see, video, right? So when you do an SS scan, basically it is going to do a SYN scan, and it doesn't look at the complete connection. It's a little bit more stealthy. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my command here, up arrow key. I'm going to change I'm going to delete the A and the the V, and then lowercase s and the big S. And then press enter. So it shows, again, the same information, but because this is looking for only synchronized packets or traffic. All right. So we did a little bit of active, so you can see with Nmap, and then we did a little bit of Google dorking in this session. We will pick up in week 2 with the rest of the labs so that way you don't miss out anything. And then we'll maybe, I can condense lab 2 or modify it a little bit for this class, but we still have like quite a bit to go. I also want you to have the experience with Nikto because this is one of the really good tool for web assessment or web app assessment. So we'll finish up the rest in the next week. All right, let's stop and then I'm available for